So yeah, I'm Josh Dreyfuss. I'm the director of product marketing at Armor Code, filling in for Mark Lambert, who I believe is still on the printed version of the agenda, although I'm up on the website. He had a family conflict emergency. But yeah, so I've been in the security space for about 5 or 6 years on the vendor side, across application security, cloud security vendors, and so I've seen kind of some of the different elements of security here. And yeah, excited to give this a talk for you guys. So today I'll be talking about kind of 3 key areas. One is about the challenges that we see behind this idea of AppSec Maturity and building a mature AppSec program. I'll also be reviewing a model for evaluating kind of the gaps, strengths, opportunities in your own program, as well as sharing some tips and practices for you, kind of no matter where you are in your own journey. So starting kind of the pains, the challenges, why this is a topic. Certainly not a dramatic statement to point out that software delivery has changed. There's been a bunch of new processes, technologies, and all that have really reshaped the creation and delivery of software. The increasing prevalence of agile, microservices, open source, cloud, containers, infrastructure as code, all of this have fundamentally changed the way that software comes to market. And as a result, software is being delivered more often and in more places than ever before. So that's great for the pace of innovation, for better serving customers, for competitive differentiation, but it makes things harder for security teams. And as a result, our approaches to software security really need to change. Traditional approaches to securing applications that have worked for years have reached a breaking point in a lot of ways. And despite the impact that application security and infrastructure security can have on each other from a security perspective, they're often treated very separately. And so security teams are dealing with a range of challenges as a result. They have a glut of different scanning tools that are kind of in silos, looking at one slice of the picture, which leaves them unable to get comprehensive visibility and really insights that they can work with and be proactive with across the entirety of their software ecosystem. They also lack a lot of meaningful automation. So many security tasks and processes are manual, and that leaves security teams stuck in Excel sheets for doing security approvals, for prioritizing, for triaging. And a lot of the processes between teams, between security and development teams, are pretty disconnected or siloed as well. From ticket creation, escalation, to even finding the right developer or development team to send an issue to in the first place. There can be a lot of misalignment or frustration between security and development teams. And to make it even harder for security teams, they're often outnumbered by developers, sometimes up to 100 to 1. So scaling for a security engineer or for a security team becomes a real challenge. So what you end up with is an inefficient, disruptive, chaotic program. Security teams are asked to do a lot and make a really big impact without kind of the tools in the background that they need to do so. So Armor Code, where I work, we see these challenges impact teams all the time. So this is a super common scenario. We'll see organizations have lots of siloed and disconnected tools embedded throughout the DevSecOps pipeline. And the combination of all these tools generates a big tidal wave of vulnerabilities, findings, alerts, and that security, development, and DevOps professionals need to handle. So in addition to being outnumbered 100 to 1, they're also having to cross-correlate all of these findings with infrastructure and cloud security tools, as well as threat intelligence feeds. And then they have to communicate this information. And that typically means leveraging Excel spreadsheets, lots of emails, lots of Slack messages to try to follow up on remediation efforts, chase down people, make sure things are actually happening. And this can't scale, especially as we move across the organization or as we start to leverage microservice-based architectures. You end up with a fun picture that looks a lot like this. So what happens? Security teams can't keep up with the pace of delivery, and unmanaged risk escapes into production. And unlike Lucy, security teams don't have the option to eat the vulnerabilities either. So what do we do? Moving forward on our journey here to AppSec Maturity means that we must unify application security and vulnerability management, really try to break down these silos and keep up with the pace of software delivery at scale. And so that's easy. So I think we're done here, and I'll call it. No, but I'm sure it's not that easy. So let me take a look for a second, kind of where we are today in this general process, and some ways we can think about actually doing this. So starting by kind of what teams want. Just to call, we recently published this survey of over 450 security professionals that is asking a bunch of questions about the state of application security in their own organizations. So the report covers wide ground. It was 25, 30 questions, and the link there is at the bottom. But I want to look specifically at a couple of them that think about how security teams view their own AppSec programs today, and kind of the areas that they want to focus on and areas that they feel they're not supported in. So if you kind of self-assess across the board, people believe they're somewhat in the middle of an application security maturity journey. It's not too surprising. There's some defined processes and technologies in place, but plenty of room for improvement. For current programs, a lot of teams feel pretty good about the collaboration they have with their developers, but are struggling most with this problems of scale and workflow automation. And so over this next year, teams are reporting that they're most focused on getting that holistic visibility into their application security posture, figuring out ways to start automating some of those critical workflows and getting out of Excel, and doing whatever they can to reduce vulnerability remediation time. And in general, 60% or so of teams prefer to try to tackle these issues with best-of-breed approaches, as opposed to building technologies themselves or creating them via open source or sticking with one primary vendor to source multiple products from. And kind of a summary from the report is really too many vulnerabilities, not enough prioritization is the number one reported stumbling block that software security teams are facing today. So high level, that's the current state. What do we do? Where do we go from here? And to that, I wanted to share a model, some work being done by the Purple Book community on developing an kind of inclusive, holistic level model that takes into account these current realities and pains that security teams are facing across all areas of the business. So if you're not familiar, Purple Book community is a community of hundreds of security leaders from some of the world's largest and most innovative companies. And they come together to share insights, work on pressing security issues, try to create a trusted space. So this year, one of the big things they've been kind of collaborating on is a new maturity model that they're calling the Scalable Software Security Maturity Model, S3M2. Bit of a mouthful, but naming's hard. So this model lays out 5 levels of maturity for a software security program across 3 key aspects: people, process, and technology. The idea is that level 1 is the beginning. You essentially have no dedicated security resources, no real tools or programs. And the model walks through different stages that an organization can be, up to this idea of level 5, which is really fully advanced program. But the scale of your organization is a key element. The idea is that this is very personalized to you. Not every company needs to be level 5. If you're a really small, lean organization, level 2, for example, can be just fine, because having some manual processes won't break your organization. You don't have those big problems of scale that require you to mature further. And maturity here is not just a matter of training or hiring more people or implementing a fancy new tool. It's a combination of buy-in, organizational support, tooling, and culture. However, a lot of these steps can be greatly enhanced with a platform to help you unify your workflows or give you that visibility and scale. And so each of these kind of dimensions here merits a full session on its own, and there have been some recordings of the ProBook community members, who were really involved with this, talking through each of them. So definitely recommend checking it out if you're interested. The link is in the bottom right there to the whole, model and all the information on it. So I'm not going to attempt to try to speed through it in detail because that'll be me talking very fast and not very interesting. But I will take a look at it kind of at the higher level here. So this is what the kind of summary screen for people looks like. So at the people level, organizations must consider several key dimensions to think about maturing their program. So won't go through it box by box, but high level, this is about staffing a proper team with security resources, getting security champions up and running, and embedded into development teams. Some of this is really thinking about training, educating, and bringing awareness to the development teams and to the broader organization. So these are fundamental responsibilities of a security team when it comes to implementing a mature program. So level by level a little bit here. At level 1, teams really don't have any dedicated security resources. No real training or awareness. Usually this is, your CTO is also responsible for security kind of level. As they start to move up to level 2, you're really bringing in your first dedicated resources, laying that foundation for training and awareness. Level 3 is about starting security champions program, bringing in some more tailored and thought out training that's a little bit more tailored to specific roles or specific needs. And level 4 and 5 are about starting to advance, become a little bit more cutting edge across these efforts. Security champions take on a more central role. Training and awareness becomes very specific. You're doing really fun, advanced things like customized capture the flags and things like that. So some of these are easier to implement than others, and several can be supported by smart use of technology. So for example, maturing from level 1 to 2 or even 3 with developer education on security topics, it's made much easier if you have some sort of knowledge base or wiki to up-level tribal knowledge into something accessible and useful for everyone. And moving up to level 4 or 5, really getting advanced, security teams need to be able to analyze where in the organization they need to spend the most time on for their training activities, which is hard to do without some way of tracking and understanding team by team performance on the security front. So we're talking SLA adherence, understanding where more vulnerabilities are entering production so you can focus on helping those teams on their security training and so on. So the second major element of S3M2 is process. So key dimensions here are governance, asset inventory and categorization, prioritization, remediation, security debt, and leveraging your metrics. So again, the focus here is on the process behind these things, not the tools or the people so much. So again, level 1 is ad hoc, really nothing very much in place. And to move up to level 2, teams are starting to define SLAs and leveraging manual efforts and spreadsheets to start building up their asset inventory and starting to prioritize issues that way. So you have some foundational processes, but they are very manual, which is natural. Level 3, you're starting to get really full visibility into your portfolio, into your security debt. You really are defining your risk methodology, formalizing your reporting and remediation processes. At level 4, automation and enforcement start to become big themes. And at level 5, really being data-driven and getting these real-time feedback loops keeps everything humming. So there are some common threads across these that security teams need to have to really move up. One is visibility. Moving from level 1 to 2 or even to 3 across many of these is a matter of getting visibility where you previously had none or very little. And unifying that visibility across your assets, vulnerabilities, your security debt, your attack vectors, it goes a really long way to be able to mature your program from a process perspective. It gives you what you need to implement process. Consolidation as well for metrics and vulnerabilities allows you to handle reporting and prioritization at scale to move up the model as well. It's hard to be jumping between a lot of different areas to pull together a report versus kind of having everything in one place to be able to generate it directly. Second common thread is really about context and this idea of having the data to act on. So, maturing along prioritization, for example, that's about moving from using one of your scanning tools to prioritize, taking what they give you, to consolidating across your tools and leveraging business context, threat intelligence, what matters to you overall, to properly weight those findings. And being data-driven becomes a really key element for maturing along governance and metrics. So a third common thread is about being able to enforce processes, particularly with the processes you have across teams with developers. So for remediation maturity, for example, key aspect is being able to implement, monitor, and enforce SLAs so that you can improve your MTTR. So these are people-focused processes, not technology processes, although technology can be super helpful for establishing SLAs, for different parts of your portfolio based on risk or tracking SLA adherence, et cetera. But you can't just have a tool and say you're done. You need to actually build up that cross-team process. So third aspect here of this maturity model is technology. And that's broken into two parts that don't fit on one slide, so it's two slides. One is tooling, and the other is secure design. So the idea of tooling, level one is maybe have some open source, some kind of basic level tools, maybe SCA, SAS, but code coverage is more for test automation validation. Dev teams are usually focused on quality first and security second, so a lot of security efforts are ad hoc. At level two now, you're starting to focus on the quality of your results. You have a mixture of open source and commercial tools, you're bringing in more types of testing, and this is the stage where you define your tool sets for the organization with some broad mandates, and where you start benchmarking against industry standards and frameworks and doing a bit of asset cataloging. So the volume of results now at this stage is starting to be a lot for the security team. And a key challenge is to really understand what's going on across all of these tools. And to move up to level three, it's really about getting that visibility. And at level three, you need to be able to track the code that you're managing directly and from third parties. More scanners are needed to cover your growing environment and more complex environment. And you need some kind of thought out risk management to keep up with everything. So the number of technologies that you have is increasing, and the volume and complexity of your data is as well. So at this stage, you're going to start getting a lot of data, but not much insight from it. So to move forward, you need to normalize your tools and your tool usage across the organization and the SDLC. At level four, teams are starting to optimize things. You're starting to enforce policies. You're checking the pipeline, preventing code from moving forward if it's out of compliance. Findings are a bit more under control here, and the right tools are being executed at the right time. So you'll be doing more automated risk management at this stage, as well as trying to automate other areas like ticket creation and prioritizing those based on risk to the business. So you'll need to be doing attack surface management, understanding if code bases aren't being scanned, if they're missing endpoints, et cetera. Actively managing your vulnerabilities and your risks is required here, which needs technology to support. And at level five, you're looking at things like automating patch management where possible, gating and blocking releases, and orchestrating tool execution. And those are kind of put into level five because you need to do that a bit toward the end. You don't want to break anything by implementing such efforts, and some organizations that's not possible. So that's really for kind of the end of the maturity model here. So moving on to the second dimension of technology, it's secure design. So if technology is looking more on kind of the pipeline and finding issues as you go. Secure design's thinking a little bit earlier. So focus here is on implementing threat modeling, from manual threat modeling efforts up to a more mature feedback loop of pen testing, bug bounties, and bringing in the testing results from production into your threat modeling in the beginning, so closing that loop. And maturing here is more than just bringing in a threat modeling tool, although obviously that's a key step. So at level 1, like for level 1 across the board, you're doing very little to nothing. Your reactive threat modeling is a little bit too advanced. At level 2, you're starting to do some manual threat modeling. But teams are often held back by gaps in expertise or a lack of coverage for their threat models. It's just looking at maybe their most critical application or something like that. For level 3, you're starting to establish governance, set SLAs, track what you discover in these threat models, and do something with it. So you're starting to associate threat modeling artifacts with assets in your portfolio here. So to mature from there, you'll want to manage your release process based on your SSDLC and ensure that training is optimized to specific weaknesses or gaps that you uncover. And that takes you to level 4. At level 5, threat models are deployed at every level. Secure design practices are embedded everywhere. Everyone's really fully bought in and working. So that's the very kind of quick 10-minute run through of S3M2 from a high level. But the purpose of this model and others like it is to really help you self-assess where you are in your maturity journey, so you can identify your gaps, opportunities to focus in on, and some ways to move forward. By understanding your specific organization's situation, you can get guideposts to figure out what state you are and what state you need to be in for the size and maturity of your organization to build your program. So practically using this, you would have like those checkboxes earlier. For each of these, you would kind of go through, see where you are, and give yourself that like 1 to 5 rating across these different dimensions. And then you'd see, oh, we're actually doing pretty well in for example, our governance and asset inventory processes, but we're really haven't implemented much training yet. It's that kind of thing. So then you can go and see where you want to focus and have a sense to take action rather than just being like, I want to do everything all at once. So regardless of what model you want to use, whether it's S3M2 or the other great models, OWASP-SAM or BSIM, or if you want to kind of create your own, there are lots of different ways to mature your software security program across people, process, technology, and all the different elements within. However, there are 5 capabilities that we see that security teams must be able to achieve to deliver a strong AppSec program. So first, you must have this unification. You must unify your environment, get that holistic visibility into your risks across all of the different areas. So applications, on-premise infrastructure if you have that, cloud, supply chain, containers, really anywhere that you are building anything that's part of your environment, you need to be able to see that as a security team, and you need to see it together with all of the different other areas. And once you see everything, you must be able to prioritize. And so that means identifying, understanding your most critical risks. And to do that, you need to correlate across your scanning tools. You need to bring in business context. You need to bring in threat intelligence. You need to be able to score and understand kind of what issues you have and which ones are most important, and make sure everyone's aligned on that across development and security teams. So 3, you've got to be able to efficiently remediate, right? You found stuff, you prioritized it, now you need to actually address it. So doing that, that's requires strong collaboration with development teams. That means that you, as a security team, need to make sure that they have everything that they need to mitigate issues, ideally in the tools and workflows they're already using, It's hard to get development teams to adopt a new security tool and to go into that to fix stuff or to get the information they need. So you want to make sure that the security information is, in Jira or whatever else they're using, and that they have that context that they need to take action there. And so, that's giving them tickets with all the context that they need. That's the idea of that knowledge base that we talked about. So fourth, you have to be able to scale. Right? This is leveraging the power of automation. And that's, again, not just for things like triggering tooling scans, but that's for processes between the teams as well. And fifth, you got to be able to learn, you got to be able to monitor, you got to be able to track what's going on. So that means, security people have to do lots of reporting. So you want to be able to generate reports in real time for leadership or the board or whoever you need to report to. You need to understand how different teams are doing across the development organization. So tracking SLAs, implementing them, enforcing them, and knowing which teams need more training, more attention, et cetera. That's a key step for security teams. So if you're able to do these 5 things, you're going to be able to move up your maturity model, implement a stronger program, and kind of tackle all of the different areas that we were talking about there earlier. So a few different ways to get these capabilities, but an Armor Code solution like Armor Code is built to help security teams with this sort of thing. So high level, Armor Code platform integrates with all of your different security scanners here across applications, infrastructure, cloud, supply chain to centralize, normalize, and correlate all of those findings. We ingest data into our intelligent data graph to apply that business context and threat intelligence. So you kind of have this idea of actionable insight based on risk scoring. So we implement some of this no-code automation to help you streamline those workflows. So ticket creation, escalation, notification, and integrate in with those developer workflows so that they have what they need where they need it. And we also, created this adaptive knowledge base so that you can elevate that tribal knowledge within the development organizations to boost developer productivity, by cross-correlating tickets, findings, code comments, and guides on what to do with cross-site scripting or whatever else, for example. So 4 kind of different ways of using this or ways that teams use it. First is this idea of application security posture management or ASPM. So this is about that idea of bringing everything together, giving you that holistic visibility, and that means you need to be able to integrate with whatever tools or you're choosing to use as a security organization, either now or in the future. So Armor Code has 200 plus, more coming all the time. Any tool, application, cloud, container, infrastructure, as well as tools in developer and DevOps ecosystems, Jira, Slack, GitHub. This is something really focused on Armor Code, and regardless of if you use Armor Code or some other tool, it's something that is a crucial need for to make sure you have. Next is this idea of risk-based vulnerability management. Unifying your security and development workflows across both application security and infrastructure vulnerability management. Third is orchestrating the DevSecOps side if you are doing any of those kind of processes. So that's human and non-human workflows, from streamlining, triaging, and remediation activities to be able to reduce your mean time to resolution. And then last but not least, this idea of tool optimization or rationalization. You need to be able to get visibility into your active repos, coverage gaps, overlaps of your scanning tools so you can see where something's missing or where you have overlapping coverage and you can adjust accordingly. So overall, Armor Code platform it's really built to help security teams as they look to move along their maturity journey across people, process, and technology. So really helping teams scale their impact, work more closely with development teams, and try to keep their organization secure. Again, it's not the only way to move up your maturity model, whether it's S3M2 or others, but it is one to help with some of those different key elements. No matter how you want to approach it, your kind of road to moving up and to maturing in AppSec, it's through unification. You need to unify across those scanning tools. You need to unify applications, infrastructure, all the different parts of your environment from a security perspective. And you need to unify your workflows, your processes for consistency and for scalability. So as you go, I wish you best of luck on that journey. It's not easy, but it really pays off, and it will help security teams be able to address the realities of modern software delivery and kind of take no matter what comes at them to be able to scale. So yeah, thank you. This is me. You can check out Homer Code, or if you have any, just want to connect with me, that's the way to do it.